Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, and prompted by a response to a video recently, I'd like to discuss the Northern Ireland Protocol consent mechanism, which would mean the Northern Ireland Assembly voting on the provision in a few years' time and just potentially scrapping the whole thing. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So yeah, had a comment which suggested that there's not a lot of talk about the consent mechanism, which is true. And I think I can probably explain why that could be. But also that the Northern Ireland Assembly could trigger a vote on it at any time. It could just trigger a vote and vote away the protocol. That's not true. But I will explain what is the case. So the situation we're in is that the lunatic fringe of the Conservative Party took over the country, rammed through a hard Brexit without any say from devolved authorities or even a confirmatory referendum amongst the UK public once it was clear what Brexit was exactly. But there is a little provision in the withdrawal agreement that gives the Northern Ireland Assembly in Stormont some say over a part of the process. Now, in the document, which I'll link below, if you want to read it yourself, it doesn't cover all the details, but it does signpost to where they can be found. There's a process entitled Democratic Consent Process. So the way this works is that the Northern Ireland Protocol is implemented. This happened at the start of the year as we left the EU's customs union and single market. 4 years later, the UK government will give notice to key members of the Northern Ireland Assembly, the First Minister, Deputy First Minister, presiding officer at least, that there is to be a vote amongst MLAs, who are the elected representatives of the Assembly. Now, there will be one of three outcomes here. The first outcome, which is believed to be the most likely, is that there is a simple majority in favour of retaining the Northern Ireland Protocol. It will not be to everyone's liking. Hell, it probably won't be to anyone's liking. But most will accept that it is better than the alternative. So, with a simple majority of MLAs voting in favour, there will have to be a review, representations to both unionist and Republican groups, reports written, and a look at whether things can be improved to keep more people, if not happy, then at least satisfied. There will then be another vote after a further 4 years. And the whole cycle will just carry on like that. The second outcome, which is not really likely, but it is preferred, is that there will not just be a simple majority, but a majority of both Unionist and Republican MLAs voting in favour. In other words, it gets majority support from both sides of the divide, particularly the sectarian divide. Now, this is how things normally work in the Assembly, as consensus is of particular importance in Northern Ireland. I think in a lot of other places it tends to be more of a luxury than a necessity. After all, if we had the same process throughout the UK, Brexit would never have happened, because it'd be like, well, we need a majority in Northern Ireland and in Scotland and in England and in Wales. It's like, oh, we didn't get it. All right, we're not leaving. Oh, that would have been quite good, actually. But anyway, the DUP, who have a major presence in Stormont, will certainly vote against it. However, let us say that the DUP started taking the meds and reined in on the insanity and supported it as the pragmatically best solution, while they begin campaigning to join the EEA, at least if they don't actually like the current situation, and preferably the EU proper again. Then the protocol would be considered supported enough that there need not be another vote for 8 years. But the process will still never end even then. It's a constant cycle. It just how long the cycle is depends on how the vote goes. Then there's the third possibility, of course. This is that it does not get majority support in the Assembly. Now, this is the most alarming outcome, because it would mean that the Northern Ireland Protocol would then cease to exist 2 years later. It would effectively scrap the whole thing and place a hard border back inside Ireland. Now, the reason for that 2 years is because, in theory, what's supposed to happen at this point, the agreement stipulates that the 2 years grace period be used to explore alternative arrangements, to preserve the invisible border and preserve the Good Friday Agreement. However, everyone knows there are no other alternatives. Now, the question has been asked by the EU, why would they ever agree to something that means the UK can unilaterally just withdraw from the protocol? The reason is because although there is a legal mechanism for this to happen, you can look at it and go, yeah, there's this system in there and the EU can do nothing about it. And it could mean the Northern Ireland Protocol is scrapped. It's all perfectly legal, apart from the fact you'd be breaching the Good Friday Agreement. But within itself, it's not actually realistic. If the protocol was voted down, 2 years later, hard border inside Ireland again. This is why the DUP don't want a simple majority to be allowed to settle the issue. But it's also why other MLAs are likely to vote in favour of it, ensuring that it will always get that simple majority in favour. So as long as the DUP and associated nutters never get half of the Assembly's seats, it should always pass with a simple majority. However, whilst the DUP retain majority control of the Unionist presence in Stormont, it will also always fail to get what is called cross-community consent. That is the majority support across the sectarian divide. So what we're looking at is a future where we'll have these votes realistically every 4 years, because there'll never be a large enough majority to put the next vote off for 8 years, but also never a majority voting it down to wreck the entire process. And if Ireland reunifies at any point in the future, it will become irrelevant anyway, as they would then automatically rejoin the EU and customs border in the Irish Sea would not be controlled by the UK on both sides. The same trading problems will still exist, of course they will, and some militant unionists will kick off for a generation or so, of course they will, but the Northern Ireland Protocol will then cease to exist. That should make the DUP happy. I hear they don't like the protocol. So that's what the consent mechanism is. So then why isn't it talked about more? Because, I mean, this is something everyone's talking about. Oh, we need to scrap the protocol. Here's your legal mechanism to scrap the protocol. I mean, I can't speak for others, but for myself, I think it's because it's really irrelevant. The first such vote will take place in 4 years. We do not know how trade between Britain and Northern Ireland will be working then. It is likely that some pragmatic solutions will be found for some of the problems. Trade barriers will still exist, of course they will. And if those trade barriers that exist across every British border create a big enough fuss amongst the public in England, Wales and Scotland as well, then it may well be that the UK does more to align a little more closely to ease that trade between Britain and the EU, which will also have the knock-on effect of easing that trade between Britain and Northern Ireland. You know, so because it's impossible to know exactly how the protocol will be working in 4 years' time, it's impossible to know what the arguments for and against will be. Not that it will affect the voting result, I imagine. A majority will vote in favour of it as better than the only alternative of a hard border inside Ireland. The DUP will vote against it as not being better than the alternative of a hard border inside Ireland. But if people wanted to have an objective debate about it, there's nothing to debate because we don't know what it's going to look like then. This is why I suspect it isn't really talked about that much. It's a complete non-issue right now. But there we are. That's my understanding. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.